Have you ever stopped to wonder if the month your child was born was truly just a coincidence, or could it be a subtle sign of something much bigger, a reflection of choices made by the soul long before entering this life? The universe doesn't deal in random accidents. Every spirit chooses carefully the moment of arrival, the place, and even the family it will call home. If you're a parent, here's something to reflect on. The exact month your child was born carries a hidden message about your own spiritual path. It can reveal parts of your past areas still waiting to heal, and even the quiet karmic bond you share with your child. Think about it. Why did this soul arrive during that exact chapter of your life, in that year, that season, that moment when so much was shifting inside you? It wasn't random chance. It was destiny aligning. The birth of your child marks a meeting point between your past lessons and the future. The two of you are meant to build together. That month on the calendar is not just a date, it's a vibrational clue. It whispers about the healing, the transformation, or the reflection your child brings into your world. This isn't just a story about them, it's also about you. Ask yourself, what does this child awaken within me? Which emotions rise to the surface? What old patterns are repeating through them? Every month carries its own energy, and that energy ties directly to an unfinished chapter from your spiritual history. Once you see this, parenting turns into something deeper, a journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. So, if this resonates with you, give this video a like. It helps more people find content that matters. Subscribe for weekly insights that connect the dots between the spiritual and the everyday. And drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story. And remember, you didn't land here by accident. Perhaps what you'll hear today is the missing piece in understanding why this soul chose you. For example, if your child was born in January, know this: they are far from ordinary. In many traditions, January represents sacred beginnings, but beginnings of this kind are only possible for souls that have already closed long, heavy cycles in past lives. A child born in this month carries the ancestral force of renewal. They didn't come only to start their own life fresh. They also came to unlock something long hidden inside of you, something waiting for light. January marks the arrival of souls who come as powerful catalysts of change for their parents, often in ways that aren't obvious at first. Children born in this month may appear serious, determined, even a little distant. But what most people don't see is that this weight comes from a long history of trial and error across past lives. They return now with a quiet resolve to finally do things right. These children cannot stand empty promises or shallow words. Integrity is non-negotiable for them. They naturally demand structure, reliability, and emotional responsibility from those around them, especially their parents. Without saying much, they somehow push you to grow stronger, to be more grounded, more consistent, more present. If you try to run from responsibility, a January child will mirror that back until you face it. If your son or daughter arrived during a season of your life when you felt lost, unstable, or overwhelmed, understand this: it was no mistake. They came as an anchor for your spirit, a reminder that it's time to stand firm. Their presence often triggers maturity in parents, whether through their strong-willed actions or their seemingly cold demeanor. But that coldness is really a protective armor, the shield of a soul once wounded by betrayal, abandonment, or chaos in other lifetimes. That is why in this life they crave clarity and demand it from everyone close to them. January, children have a unique relationship with time. They thrive on routine, on knowing what comes next. Sudden disruptions make them uneasy. The root of this lies deep in spiritual memory, echoes of instability from the past. And so unconsciously they call for stability and unwavering presence now. They sense dishonesty instantly, even in the smallest lie. When you're distracted or emotionally absent, they close themselves off. Silence doesn't fool them. Absence speaks louder than words. To welcome a January child is to step into a karmic awakening. Their very existence pushes you to reevaluate your values, your choices, the direction of your life. Many parents of January babies find themselves making radical shifts soon after ending unhealthy relationships, pursuing meaningful careers, or finally taking on responsibilities long avoided. It's as if the soul of this child whispers firmly, "No more excuses. The time to grow is now." At their core, January children are hidden teachers. They guide not with long lectures, but with the power of their example. Demanding yet fair, strict yet just, they have an unshakable sense of balance. They refuse to tolerate injustice. And for parents who have spent years living to please others, always sacrificing themselves, a January child arrives to deliver a profound lesson. You can only serve others well when you stand tall, centered, and true to yourself. At times you may feel judged, pressured, or even unsettled by a January child. But that reaction has a deeper root. This soul already knows you. You've walked together in other lives, and the energy of what you built back then still lingers between you now. It's as if they're whispering, "I know your strength. I've seen it before. I came back to remind you of what you're truly capable of." Their presence restores your sense of authority, helping you step out of confusion and into clarity. More than anything, they refuse to let you betray yourself again because they've already witnessed you do it in the past. So if your child was born in January, pause for a moment, breathe, and give thanks. You've been chosen by a soul that is demanding, deeply fair, and intricately tied to your destiny. This child did not come to repeat old cycles. They came to shatter patterns, and in doing so, they'll break yours as well. Not to wound you, but to awaken the power you forgot was yours. Look at them not just with the eyes of a parent, but with the vision of your soul. Beneath their firmness is an ancient love that has traveled lifetimes, returning now to finish what you once began together. And if your child was born in February, the story shifts in a profound way. February is unlike any other month. It is brief, often overlooked, but spiritually, it carries the oldest and most sensitive souls. These are spirits who lived intensely in past incarnations, priests, healers, wanderers, artists, and now they return not to repeat, but to observe, reflect, and offer new ways of seeing life itself. Parents of February-born children quickly sense something different. There's an unusual presence in them, quiet yet undeniable. These children are deeply intuitive, sometimes unpredictable, often difficult to place in a box. They don't blend in easily. At times they seem lost in their own private world. But make no mistake, this isn't distraction, it's expansion. Their minds and souls are tuned to frequencies beyond ordinary understanding. Because they've lived so many lifetimes, these children arrive freer, less bound by structures. And in that freedom, they challenge their parents to let go as well. If you are rigid, controlling, or steeped in tradition, this child will likely be your greatest challenge and your greatest healer. They arrive with a karmic mission to dissolve their parents' ego. They reject control, resist manipulation, and refuse to respond to shouting or punishment. Their need for freedom is not rebellion, it's the wisdom of ancient souls. That's why many parents say, "I just can't understand my February child," and their right logic can't explain them. These children didn't come to fit into your reasoning. They came to reconnect you with your spirit, to awaken all the parts of yourself you've buried under duty, fear, and routine. They are masters of the unseen, bearers of truths that don't align with modern life, but hold the essence of something timeless. These children rarely fit neatly into the boxes our systems create. They bristle at blind obedience, struggle with meaningless school rules, and will push back when adults try to force them into familiar molds. That resistance isn't mere stubbornness, it's a spiritual invitation. A February soul asks you to loosen whatever old constraints you cling to. They arrive to question the beliefs you follow by habit and to stir the courage inside you to live more honestly, even if that honesty separates you from others' expectations. If a February child feels puzzling or difficult, remember their inner world is layered and ancient. Many of them show their gifts early. Vivid dreams that linger in the morning, sudden flashes of existential curiosity, an uncanny sensitivity to moods around them. They're like radios tuned to stations adults stopped listening to long ago. If you try to fix or normalize them, they may withdraw, and with that retreat, you lose the chance to witness the very transformation they were sent to ignite. Their karma is woven into yours like threads meant to soften the armor fear has built around your heart. They arrive to remind you to feel more freely, to let imagination return, to allow vulnerability to be useful instead of dangerous. Notice how February births often coincide with turning points in your life, after a loss, during a move, or amid a personal crisis. That timing is not random, it's synchrony. The soul chose a moment when the barrier between who you were and who you might become was thinnest. They found you exposed on purpose because they didn't intend to be merely another presence in your life. They are the key that opens a new door in your awareness, and opening that door will require facing old hurts you have quietly kept locked away. You may feel exposed or inadequate in their presence. They seem to read you, to see past your defenses, and at times to question you in ways that feel disorienting. That's because you have a history together. In other lifetimes, this soul may have been your mentor, your child, or someone you once left behind. Now they return not to condemn, but to offer a fresh narrative, one where love isn't conditional, freedom is safe, and growth can be guided by presence rather than punishment. So if your child was born in February, receive them as the subtle, profound gift they are. They may speak little and seem distant, but pay attention. Every glance and every quiet breath carries meaning. Their work is not to change the world in obvious ways, but to spark something silent and irreversible within you. Follow them if you can, and they will lead you to inner landscapes you had forgotten even existed. If your child arrived in March, you have been given a deeply sensitive, ancient healer. March souls often return bearing unseen emotional scars, traces of past loss, rejection, or of having given too much in former lives, and they carry with them a quiet but persistent call toward healing. March children often carry a soft, faraway gaze, like travelers paused on the threshold of two worlds. They come with a quiet purpose to heal what you as a parent have long learned to avoid. Think of them as liquid mirrors, reflecting not just the surface, but the currents that run deep beneath. They pick up what's unspoken, sense the atmosphere in a room, and register feelings before they're ever named. Because of that sensitivity, their arrival often follows a time of loss, upheaval, or emotional fragility for the family. That timing is not accidental. It's an invitation. These little ones are built from imagination and memory. Inside them lives a theater of images, characters, and entire inner landscapes that few adults can enter. This inward life is not a retreat from reality, but an echo of ancient roles, healers, seers, quiet ritualists carried forward across lifetimes. Their inner worlds are reservoirs of ancestral wisdom, and the purpose of their presence is to reopen your own contact with intuition, tenderness, and empathic knowing. If you've grown guarded or learned to armor your feelings in order to cope, a March child arrives like an ocean tide, gently dissolving those hard edges. They ask for more than the basics of care. They require a space to be felt, to unfold, and to move. That demand forces you to remember how to feel rather than how to perform. They don't want a list of rules. They need permission to experience. In asking for that, they shine a light on every time you shut down your own heart to fit expectations. This lesson is rarely easy. It asks you to reopen rooms inside yourself you locked long ago. When parents try to impose control, rigid schedules, or an excess of logic, March children often respond not with rebellion but with retreat. They become quiet, distant, and that withdrawal can pierce a parent's heart. But that pain itself is the doorway to listening. The March soul is not asking for obedience as much as it is asking for presence. It wants to know that love will remain even when performance falters, that affection isn't conditioned on grades, behavior, or outward success. Many March-born kids bring gifts that seem uncanny: prophetic dreams, a natural affinity for the outdoors, an intuitive bond with animals, or a reverence for stillness. They sense patterns adults miss and dream seeds of futures not yet visible. Because they once lived close to the spiritual veil, they now serve as tiny portals nudging their parents toward the subtler territories of feeling and meaning. That opening is rarely comfortable. It exposes where you remain closed, where unresolved trauma still lives. And yet that exposure is precisely the work the soul came to do. If you find yourself moved for no obvious reason in their presence, take notice. That movement is the beginning of something real. It's the slow, sacred unfreezing of parts of you that have been asleep. Allow that process space. Learn to listen more than instruct. Sit with silences instead of rushing to fill them. When you tune in, you will discover that the transformation they catalyze is both silent and profound. Not just a change in your daily routine, but a deep rewiring of how you feel, attend, and love. The arrival of a March child has a way of dissolving emotional armor you thought would never crack. Even when you're convinced you're in control, sooner or later, this soul will show you the places still longing for love, acceptance, or forgiveness. They don't need to preach or lecture. Their very presence is the reminder. The healing they bring is subtle yet powerful. And here's the paradox: the more you try to control them, the more you will see your own rigidity reflected back like a mirror. They are living proof that real healing only flows through vulnerability, and that love, if it is to be true, always requires surrender. So if your child was born in March, recognize them as the sacred gift they are. They aren't fragile, they are profoundly sensitive. And sensitivity in this harsh world is a rare strength. You weren't chosen by this soul because you had it all figured out. You were chosen because together you hold the possibility of healing wounds that go far deeper than this lifetime. March marked the exact threshold when your soul was ready to begin again, and that's why this child arrived then at that precise moment. Now, if your child was born in April, the story shifts once more. An April soul carries the weight of unfinished business from past lives. April bursts with the energy of awakening, of urgency, of spiritual fire. These children don't enter the world to sit quietly and watch. They come to stir, to provoke, to accelerate. In other lifetimes, they may have been warriors, leaders, revolutionaries. Today, they return with the same fierce inner flame compressed into the body of a child. If your son or daughter rarely sits still, voices strong opinions, or bristles when told what to do, don't mistake it for simple stubbornness. What you're seeing is an ancient fire. April children can't stand passivity. Their restlessness is not only physical but deeply energetic. They sense stagnation in any environment and instinctively shake it loose. And yes, that includes you. It's no coincidence that many April babies are born right when their parents feel stuck, trapped in indecision, weighed down by a life that no longer reflects their truth. Then suddenly, like an earthquake, this child arrives, and with them, the ground shifts. Many parents find that soon after major changes unfold, separations, moves, new careers, bold life choices. This isn't chaos, it's karma being activated. In past lives, these fiery souls often lived with intensity but also with excess. They imposed, dominated, chose conflict over dialogue. Now they return with the same power, but with a new mission: to learn how to channel it with wisdom. And who will teach them? You, their parent. But here's the challenge: you can't teach emotional balance unless you've cultivated it yourself. That's where the karmic bond is revealed. An April child will press on the very parts of you that remain unmastered. If you're reactive, they'll react harder. If you impose, they'll explode. They see through emotional disguises and refuse to accept them. Their presence demands authenticity. They sense it when you lie, even when the lie is to yourself. April children come equipped with a kind of radar for truth. and they won't let you live comfortably in anything less. April children have a way of pushing limits and questioning rules. They rarely accept blind authority. What might look like defiance is really their soul asking, "Are you guiding me with truth or just repeating what you were told your whole life?" These children compel you to pause before issuing commands, to listen before reacting. If you let them, they'll help you rediscover a courage you may have buried long ago. Spiritually, April is charged with raw force, untamed strength that bursts through the body. That's why many April-born kids overflow with physical energy. They talk loudly, move constantly, express emotions with dramatic gestures, sometimes wearing parents out in the process. But this intensity is not random. Their physical drive is a mirror of enormous spiritual energy pressing to be released. This is not a soul that can be boxed in. They come with ideas, passions, and impulses stacked within them. Try to smother it with rigidity, and they will eventually break. The key is not containment, but direction. Teach them to channel their fire, to turn movement into purpose, noise into expression, boldness into leadership. Guided well, their energy sparks creation. Unchecked, it can slip into conflict. And yes, you will often feel tested. That is their nature. But those tests are not punishment, they are mission. In many traditions, April souls are said to return specifically to reignite courage in their parents. Courage to change, to rise, to say no, to leave behind what no longer serves. Sometimes all it takes is a piercing look, a blunt sentence, or an unexpected challenge, and suddenly you feel your own fire being reawakened. They push, but they also inspire. April children are small bodies carrying catalytic energy, sparking transformations far bigger than themselves. Karmically, their arrival often signals a reunion of souls whose story was left unfinished. Perhaps you once stood side by side as allies in a struggle. Perhaps you were rivals, perhaps you left something unresolved. This soul rushes back as if to say, "Time is short. Let's finish what we started." And you can feel it, that invisible thread that ties you deeper than logic, undeniable in its pull. The more you resist, the harder they push, because they did not come to replay old cycles, they came to complete them. So, if your child was born in April, honor the fierce light they carry. And more than that, recognize the light they are determined to rekindle in you. They are fire, impulse, and fresh beginnings. Yet beneath it all, they are also a teacher. Like any true master, they will unsettle you until you awaken. Their mission isn't to dominate you, but to set you free. And they chose April because that was the moment your soul was ready to be reborn alongside them. If your child was born in May, the energy shifts once again. May children arrive carrying the vibration of stability, harmony, and emotional rebuilding. In past lives, many of them endured deep insecurity, whether emotional, financial, or even existential. They may have known chaos, instability, or deprivation, and so now they return with a natural longing to create roots, to build comfort, to anchor themselves in safety. For that, they turn instinctively to you. May children arrive with a gentle presence that feels soothing, even calming, sometimes so calm that parents underestimate the quiet strength behind it. Beneath that softness lies a soul with a profound respect for what is solid, trustworthy, and enduring. They are drawn to what feels grounded and safe because spiritually, May is tied to healing through the body and the material world. These children crave touch, closeness, and physical presence, a hug, a hand resting on their shoulder, the warmth of shared space, the beauty of a well-kept home. All of these carry meaning for them. Their gift is to pull you out of distraction, out of the whirlwind of future worries, and root you firmly back in the now. With them, the lesson is always presence. May souls also arrive with a generational mission to restore the value of self-love within the family line. That's why it is common for parents of May-born children to suddenly confront their own struggles with self-worth, self-care, and pleasure. If you've spent years living only for others, neglecting yourself, this child will quietly demand, not with words, but with energy, that you begin to nurture yourself again. They notice exhaustion even when you mask it with a smile, and when they sense you are drained, they may become restless or unsettled until you finally choose to respect your own limits. It's their way of saying, "Take care of yourself, because I need you whole." These children are deeply bonded to the senses. They delight in flavors, in music, in fragrance, in the touch of nature. They thrive on affection, on eye contact, on shared experiences that awaken the body. And in their simple sensory way, they heal. A May child can bring you back to balance just by curling into your lap, by flashing a smile when your heart is heavy, or by turning a house into a home through the warmth of their being. Their wisdom lies in reminding you that the smallest gestures are often the most profound. Spiritually, May children often arrive after periods of disruption in their parents' lives: a breakup, a loss, a move, a financial or personal crisis. Their arrival carries a message: now is the time to rebuild. But they don't mean rebuild from the outside in. They mean from the inside out. Their presence helps you rediscover your center, though this process often requires dismantling the illusions of security you constructed just to survive. Many parents of May-born children wrestle with guilt, worrying they cannot provide everything materially. But what this soul craves most is not luxury, it is emotional safety. They want your presence more than your possessions. They long for routine, not perfection. They hunger for affection more than eloquent words. These children sense falseness quickly. They can feel when love is forced, when emotions are hidden, when words don't match the heart. And so, they push you toward honesty, starting with yourself. It's okay to admit when you're tired, uncertain, or still finding your footing. May children teach that honesty is stronger than pretense. Their bond with the earth is unmistakable. They are drawn to plants, to animals, to the living rhythms of nature. It's no wonder May is often called the month of gardener souls. They come to remind you that life flourishes with care, patience, and steady love. May children arrive to plant new life in you, but first they ask you to clear the soil. They'll reveal where you still cling to old resentments, where you persist in standing on barren ground, and with a patience that feels almost ancient, they'll wait while you learn to let yourself bloom again. They understand that beauty only grows where truth has been sown. They're not rushed, but they are on a mission. If your child was born in May, know this: you're holding a healing soul that needs to be welcomed deeply. Their request for your best isn't about achievement or trophies, it's about presence. Give them your full attention, your honest heart, and they will teach you a simpler, truer way to live. They show quietly and insistently that the security you chase outside cannot replace the safety you build within. Loving another truly starts with allowing yourself to be loved by you. May children are masters of small sensory wisdom. They heal through touch, through the way they rest in your lap, the gentleness of a smile when you feel low, the way they turn a house into a home simply by being there. They arrive often after a season of upheaval in the parents' lives, a breakup, a move, a loss, or a crisis, and their presence signals a deliberate invitation to rebuild, not superficially, but from the inside out. They demand honesty, admit when you're tired, when you don't have the answers, when you're still putting the pieces back together. They will sit with you in that honesty until the soil is ready for new roots. Now imagine June. If your child arrived in this month, you've welcomed a soul that lives between worlds, a bridge of thought and feeling, speech and silence, matter and mystery. June children often show a dual nature: early on brilliant curiosity and intense sensitivity, by turns chatty and bright, one moment mysteriously withdrawn the next. This is not inconsistency, it's accumulated emotional intelligence from many lifetimes. June souls are communicators of the heart. They translate feeling into language, turning moods into questions, pain into poems, intuition into exact phrasing. If you consider yourself overly practical or habitually mute about your inner life, A June child is here to flip that switch. Their arrival activates karmic communication. Everything that has been silenced, swallowed, or awkwardly avoided in your family will surface through them. They can seem provocative or hard to manage precisely because they expose the hush that has been doing damage. Their questions are mirrors. Speak, be heard, learn to listen. In many past lives, these souls served as messengers, scribes, minstrels, or healers who used words as medicine. So now their mission is to bring language back into the home as a way to heal, but first they need to feel safe using it there. If a household is cold, hurried, or harsh, a June child may retreat. They don't vanish out of spite. They withdraw to protect a fragile capacity to trust. If you want them to thrive, create space for conversation and silence both. Encourage their questions. Receive their attempts to name feelings instead of shutting them down. When they are allowed to speak and to be heard, they'll teach your family to translate pain into understanding, silence into shared meaning, and ordinary days into something luminous. When June children feel openness, affection, and encouragement to share themselves, they blossom. And as they blossom, they make you blossom too. They remind you of something you may have forgotten: how deeply you once needed to be heard and how often you weren't. Their presence stirs an urgency in parents, an inner clock ticking louder, whispering that time is short, that there are still unspoken words, unfinished conversations, truths waiting to be voiced. June children are like emotional alarm clocks. They press on the tender places, they linger where you hesitate, but they do so with lightness, with curiosity, rather than confrontation, and that gentleness disarms you. Suddenly, you find yourself saying what you never said before, opening doors in your heart you didn't even realize were locked. In karmic terms, a June child often signals the return of a bond once broken by silence. Siblings, partners, or friends, separated in past lives by misunderstandings, unspoken truths, or promises never fulfilled. Now they return with a new role, a new body, but the same mission: to heal through words and presence. Their purpose is not only to speak truth, but to teach you to listen to them and ultimately to yourself. They are acutely sensitive to tone, to the weight of anger, in a word, to the sharpness of judgment. Their reactions reveal instantly where harshness still lingers in your communication. And while they don't expect perfection, they need presence. A June child wants to know that their voice matters, that their ideas are welcome, that their words fall into ears that truly hear. They don't need polished answers, they need emotional honesty. When you cultivate that presence with them, you find it expanding everywhere in your life, in how you speak to loved ones, in how you hear your own inner voice. If your child was born in June, embrace their soul with patience, listening, and truth. They didn't come just to make you speak. They came to teach you to listen with your heart. And through that, they'll heal ancestral wounds that still echo in silence. June is the month of healing words, and your child is living proof that love spoken with sincerity has the power to transform even what once felt lost. If your child was born in July, you've been chosen by a soul carrying a deep karmic history tied to affection, protection, and the healing of family bonds. July is the month of ancient heart souls who in past lives experienced profound losses in love and in family. By arriving now, they carry not only extraordinary sensitivity, but also a clear mission to mend broken homes, to restore wounded love, to teach what true connection means. And their work begins with you. July children arrive with an unmistakable need for closeness. Affection isn't optional for them, it's their language. They crave touch, warmth, belonging. Before a single word is spoken, they can already sense the emotional temperature in a room. If the atmosphere is heavy, if tension lingers in the air, they feel it immediately and respond with their hearts. For parents who grew up without tenderness or who find it difficult to express what they truly feel, this child becomes an undeniable mirror. They won't settle for half your love. They want it all: your presence, your attention, your listening, your touch, your soul fully engaged. Why? Because that is exactly what they have come to give you in return, a lesson in real, unconditional connection. July souls carry a powerful bond with the mother figure, regardless of whether they are sons or daughters. In past lives, many of them experienced the roles of wounded mothers, absent fathers, or children abandoned in their need for love. These memories leave them with a deep imprint, the need for emotional security. When that sense of safety wavers even slightly, they react strongly. Tears, anxiety, sudden silences, these are not simple tantrums, they are echoes of soul trauma resurfacing. And once you understand that your approach changes, you stop trying to fix behavior and instead begin to nurture the root. The arrival of a July child often coincides with seasons of emotional exhaustion in the parents' lives. It may come after grief, betrayal, estrangement, or in the midst of a relationship that feels unsteady. That timing is no accident. Their birth is the soul's way of saying, the time for healing cannot be postponed any longer. And with their presence, you're compelled to face what you've been avoiding: fear of abandonment, difficulty, trusting resistance to surrendering to love. These children don't need many words. They feel, and because they feel so deeply, they teach by example. They'll reveal where you've built walls against love, where you still hide from vulnerability. They'll climb into your lap, even when others say they're too old. They'll want to fall asleep close to you, even when society insists you're spoiling them. Their wisdom is simple but profound. Healing follows the rhythm of the heart, not the rules of culture. They are here to make you trust that rhythm again. In the karmic field, July births signal profound reconnections within the family line. In other lives, this soul may have been your child, your sibling, your partner, or even the one you abandoned or the one who abandoned you. Now they return not only to rebuild what was broken between the two of you, but to weave healing through your entire ancestry. Parents of July children often describe the love they feel as overwhelming, so strong it almost frightens them. That intensity is not an illusion. It's the mark of a bond that stretches far beyond time, beyond roles, beyond lifetimes. This soul came back to remind you of a truth: love, when it is real, can endure across centuries and still find its way home. July children are born with a fierce instinct to protect those they love. Their hearts overflow with empathy, tenderness, and sometimes even anxiety from a very young age. But don't mistake this for fragility. What you are witnessing is the echo of love carried over from lifetimes before a reservoir so full it spills into this one. When that overflow isn't balanced, however, it can weigh heavily on them. That's why these children need parents who also care for themselves, who show by example that love doesn't require constant sacrifice. And this can only happen when you begin to look at yourself with compassion, with honesty, and allow this soul to soothe the pain you've hidden, perhaps even from yourself. If your child was born in July, know this: they are your emotional medicine. And like any true remedy, they may taste bitter at first. Healing requires touching the wounds, and they will shine light on the affections you never resolved, the childhood memories you swore were buried, the bonds you were afraid to mend. But don't turn away. They didn't come to repeat your story. They came to offer you a chance to write a new ending, one that begins when you choose to love with your whole heart again without fear. Now, if your child was born in August, you are walking beside a soul with the spirit of leadership, ancestral courage, and an unmistakable sense of mission. August is the month of old rulers and guardians. These are souls who once held positions of power, not always through ego, but through responsibility and purpose. They may have been kings or queens, but also healers, tribal elders, spiritual guides, or keepers of sacred wisdom. And now they return, carrying that same commanding energy in a child's frame. Even small, their presence is impossible to ignore. From an early age, August children reveal an authority that cannot be taught. It is simply there. They speak with conviction, form strong opinions, and sometimes display an emotional maturity far beyond their years. If misunderstood, This can look like stubbornness, arrogance, or resistance to authority. But what they're really showing is the memory of a soul that knows it came with a purpose. When they sense inconsistency, when parents say one thing but live another, they react, they challenge, they withdraw, or they explode. They simply refuse to be led by those who do not embody truth. These children test the emotional strength of their parents constantly. They will not accept empty orders, they will not bend to manipulation, and they will not tolerate environments where respect is demanded but not lived. August children are equipped with a built-in radar for injustice. If you grew up swallowing pain, lowering your head, obeying without question, this child may feel impossibly difficult to raise. But in truth, they are here to teach you the opposite. They are here to remind you that you can lift your head, that you can speak up, that you too can stand in your own power. The birth of an August child often marks the beginning of a new cycle of strength and personal authority for the parents themselves. It's as if life itself declares you can't keep hiding anymore. An August child brings everything you thought you had under control bubbling to the surface. Their eyes say it all, sometimes sharp with challenge, other times glowing with admiration, as if to whisper, "Be great, be strong, because I need you that way." That gaze is more than a look. It's a mirror reflecting the dormant strength inside you. These children are intimately connected to the sun, radiant, vibrant, full of vital energy. Yet, alongside that brilliance, they pass through phases of quiet introspection, even withdrawal. They carry the aura of great leaders, but also the solitude that comes with not being fully understood. And here lies a parent's responsibility to remember that even the strongest souls need shelter. August children carry deep memories of past wars, betrayals, and burdensome responsibilities. Sometimes, what they long for most is your lap, your arms, but they won't ask. You must notice, and you must offer, not through control, but through presence. Karmically, the bonds between August children and their parents often stretch across lifetimes, marked by power and destiny. Perhaps once you led side by side, perhaps one dominated while the other submitted. Now you are brought together to restore balance. That's why these children may awaken old wounds within you, the scars of authority misused, or the ache of never learning to claim your voice. Healing begins when you understand they didn't come to overpower you. They came to grow with you. August souls flourish when they feel respected. Not spoiled, not indulged, but truly heard. Give them responsibilities, let them take part in decisions, invite them to collaborate in family life. These gestures tell them their power has purpose, their leadership has meaning, because if that inner fire goes unguided, it can turn into manipulation, harshness, or isolation. But when nurtured with wisdom, their strength transforms everything around them, including you. If your child was born in August, recognize that you haven't just been given a child, you've been entrusted with a mission. This soul came to awaken your strength, to challenge the passivity you've leaned on, to rekindle the courage you once buried for survival. Yes, they may overwhelm you at times. Yes, they may be difficult, but they will also be the clearest mirror of your own greatness. They chose you because even if you doubt it, you are ready to rise to their level. The journey begins here with presence, with truth, and with a love big enough to honor both destinies. If your child was born in September, know this: they did not arrive by accident. September souls carry a mission of reordering, of ancestral healing, of spiritual purification. They come to cleanse old wounds in the family line, to bring harmony where there has been discord, and to teach the sacred art of beginning again. September souls are shaped by past lives where survival demanded constant control. They knew chaos, instability, sudden loss. Now they return with finely tuned senses, naturally spotting disorder, imbalance, or anything that feels off, whether in the home, in your words, or in the unspoken emotions that linger in the air. From an early age, September children watch everything. They may not be the loudest or most outwardly expressive, but they are the ones who feel the deepest. They notice the heaviness in your eyes, the tension in your touch, the truth behind your silences. This keen perception is often misread as being too picky or too critical. But it's not fussiness, it's refined sensitivity. They were born to repair, and to do that, they must first see what is broken. In past lives, many September souls served as healers, doctors, teachers, community guides, or quiet spiritual leaders. They return now with a sharpened sense of ethics and order. That's why they often challenge parents in subtle ways. They don't tolerate inconsistency. They shut down when disrespected. They grow restless when the home feels emotionally or energetically cluttered. If they seem demanding, it may be because they're showing you what you've overlooked for far too long. The birth of a September child often coincides with a season in which parents are searching for clarity, direction, or renewal. Their arrival is like a balancing point, a living reminder that harmony must be restored. And sometimes, even before they can speak, their very presence begins to insist on order. When harmony is absent, they may become irritable, anxious, withdrawn, or even show compulsive behaviors. This is not mere behavioral trouble. It's the soul's way of crying out, "Fix the space inside and out." Karmically, the arrival of a September child often represents reunion. In another life, they may have been someone who cared for you or someone you neglected because you were too busy. Now, they return to rebalance that bond. But this healing can only happen through genuine presence, through time, through attentive listening, through real consistency. September souls cannot bear superficiality. They came to teach that love is found in details, in care, in routine, in the integrity of matching your words with your actions. Yes, these children may appear closed off or overly demanding at times, but that's only the armor they wear for protection. Deep down, they are loyal, devoted, and fiercely protective of those they love. What they need most is trust, and that trust can only be built on your emotional stability. When they feel safe, they open their hearts, and when they open, they show you that true healing is found not in grand gestures but in steady love lived daily. That's why a September child teaches you, sometimes harshly, that adulthood is not about control but about emotional responsibility. And that responsibility includes admitting when you're wrong. These children thrive in spaces where there is order, beauty, routine, and respect. They are sensitive to clutter, but even more to emotional clutter. By forcing you to face that, they give you the rare opportunity to organize your own soul. With them, you discover that discipline can be a form of love, that routine can actually be freedom, and that attention to detail often becomes the quickest path to healing. If your child was born in September, recognize them as your master of order, not order rooted in rigidity, but in truth. They will call out your inconsistencies, demand attention to what you once overlooked, and ask for presence where you've been absent. And though it can be uncomfortable, this is their gift. They don't seek perfection. They seek your honesty, your consistency, your commitment. They chose you because they knew you were ready for a deeper, steadier kind of love, one that doesn't show off, but transforms daily life from the inside out. Now, if your child was born in October, you've been blessed with a soul carrying a subtle yet incredibly powerful mission to harmonize bonds fractured by time, pride, or fear. October is the month of the diplomatic soul, ancient hearts shaped in lifetimes of conflict, division, and extremes. In many past lives, October children witnessed misunderstanding and discord, whether in families, communities, or spiritual circles. Now they return with an innate impulse to mend, to pacify, to gently reorder what has been broken. And this mission begins at home. From an early age, October children display a deep hunger for peace. They are unsettled by tension-raised voices or conflict. Even if they don't fully grasp the words, they feel the energy behind them. Instead of meeting conflict with anger, they often retreat into silence, withdraw to protect themselves, or try to resolve the situation in their own way, offering a hug, changing the subject, or trying to distract everyone with humor. This isn't manipulation, it's spiritual memory. These souls remember what it is to live in a place where love was interrupted, and their deepest longing is to ensure it doesn't happen again. October children also carry an unmistakable sense of justice. From a surprisingly young age, they care deeply for others, asking if you're okay, empathizing with strangers, defending classmates who are bullied, or growing upset over even the smallest exclusions. They carry this intensity because in other lives they have experienced both sides, being the one who excluded and the one who was excluded. Now they return with the responsibility of doing it differently and teaching you to do the same. October children don't just coexist with you, they reshape you. They challenge their parents in gentle but transformative ways. If you tend to be harsh, controlling, or emotionally distant, their response may come as fragility, sadness, or even physical symptoms that have no clear explanation. It isn't weakness, it's their ability to absorb everything around them. Their mission is balance, and balance requires a home where love, respect, and empathy are consistent. They'll make you rethink your tone of voice, your reactions, the time and attention you truly give. Not because they demand it outright, but because they reflect it back to you like a mirror. Karmically, the birth of an October child often signals the return of a soul once entangled with you in pain. A lover betrayed, a friend estranged, someone you left behind out of pride. Now they return not to reopen old wounds, but to offer you the rare chance to love without masks, to begin again without the weight of the past. October, children carry a deep connection with beauty and art. Many of them were once artists, musicians, poets, or healers of the spirit. That's why they move through life with refined sensitivity, drawn to music, colors, scents, and words that soften the heart. Their pursuit of beauty is not vanity, it's medicine. They rearrange their environment to ease chaos, and in doing so, they remind us that beauty is a balm for the soul. What they need most is routine, wrapped in kindness, touch, eye contact, genuine listening. They are not fooled by surface smiles. They sense when I'm fine is a lie, and instead of judging, they offer you what you've been hiding from yourself: comfort. If you let them, you'll realize how much healing they bring simply by being present. So, if your child was born in October, know this: they are your point of reunion. A soul who longs to see you whole, who lights up when you share a slow hug, an unhurried conversation, a moment of effortless care. They chose you to live a love that is free of old wounds, but for that to happen, you must heal your own first. They will wait with patience, with love, with generosity, until you return to yourself. Only then can you both finally live the bond that in another life was left unfinished. If your child was born in November, prepare yourself. These are some of the most intense souls of the karmic zodiac. They carry powerful spiritual memories, ancient traumas, unresolved pacts, profound wisdom that transcends time. They don't just enter the world, they arrive with a presence that shakes everything around them. November children never arrive lightly. Their presence is unmistakable, their energy impossible to ignore. Even in silence, they radiate a field that unsettles, awakens, and provokes. These are not souls who came to please. They came to awaken, and the very first person they came to awaken is you. Their sensitivity goes far beyond emotions. It is psychic. They see through masks and hear truths hidden beneath words. They know when someone is lying, even if there's a smile on their face. They sense tensions, unspoken secrets, buried wounds, covered in silence. It can overwhelm them at first, which is why November children may seem reserved, distrusting, or fiercely attached to one parent. What they need most is a sanctuary of trust, a space where their gifts are not dismissed but respected. And that trust begins with you, with your presence, your patience, and your truth. Spiritually, these souls descend from lineages of deep power. In other lives, they were shamans, priestesses, prophets, healers, and at times martyrs who suffered for challenging oppressive systems or daring to speak against corruption. That same power lies dormant within them now, and it often bursts through as emotional intensity, uncontrollable tears, fierce anger, or overwhelming love that borders on possessiveness. Don't try to suppress this fire. It's not misbehavior, it's a sign of their mission. They must learn to channel their intensity, not hide it. The birth of a November child rarely occurs in calm seasons of life. They tend to arrive at moments of upheaval after endings, radical shifts, losses, or crises. That timing is deliberate. They choose the storm because they know their presence will push you to confront truths you've long avoided. They are like a light that exposes every hidden corner of the house, including the ones you'd rather keep locked away. It is uncomfortable, yes, but it is also profoundly healing. Karmically, the bond between you and this child often originates in lifetimes, scarred by secrets, betrayals, or painful losses. Perhaps they were someone you couldn't protect or someone you lost without a goodbye. Now, as your child, they return to give you another chance. But make no mistake, this second chance will not be easy. It won't come through avoidance or surface-level fixes. November souls demand real transformation. They will test you, your patience, your honesty, your ability to face your own shadows. They despise hypocrisy. They reject authority without dialogue. They recoil at manipulation. Their intensity can be overwhelming, but within it lies immense loyalty, depth, and perception. If they sense honesty, they will open like no one else, deep, trusting, unguarded. But if they sense falseness, they will close themselves off, becoming nearly unreachable. If your child was born in November, understand that you were chosen for a soul that will not let you live half asleep. They came to break illusions, to demand truth, and to help you walk through your own shadows until you find the light again. They are not here to make life easier, they are here to make it real. November children demand something rare from their parents: wholeness. They strip away masks, expose games of power, and dissolve the places where you've tried to escape yourself. They thrive only when given the freedom to feel, to have moments of silence, time alone, and an environment that is energetically clear. These are children drawn to symbols, dreams, mysteries, and the invisible realms. Many of them display intuitive gifts, early, vivid visions, startling premonitions, or an uncanny connection to the spiritual world. Yes, this may unsettle you at first, but don't reject it, nurture it. Encourage their bond with nature, with art, with practices that help them ground their energy, breathing, meditation, creativity. The more permission you give them to be who they are, the brighter they shine. And when they shine, they illuminate not just themselves, but your entire lineage. If your child was born in November, never treat them as fragile. They are a force of nature. Yet don't mistake that strength as a reason to burden them like an adult. They still need your lap, your listening ear, and your respect for their immense sensitivity. They chose you because they saw your readiness, your potential to break ancient patterns inside and out. And even if you don't feel ready, trust this: they have already seen your soul. They already know your light. Even in the parts of yourself you try hardest to hide, they chose you anyway. Now, if your child was born in December, you've welcomed a soul who carries the energy of boundary breakers. In past lives, they were explorers of geography, of mind, of spirit. They stretched the edges of what was possible, and in this lifetime, they arrive with that same hunger, a thirst for truth, for freedom, for the vastness of life. From an early age, you'll see it in their eyes, the sparkle that ignites when they discover something new. They are fascinated by stories, by cultures, by ideas. They are restless in confinement. These are souls that have already traveled far, and even in the body of a child, they keep seeking broader horizons. The birth of a December child often marks the beginning of an expansion cycle for the parents. Your life will grow wider because of them. December is a karmic month tied to faith, freedom, and personal truth. These children won't accept shallow answers. They won't follow tradition simply because that's how it's done. They reject empty rules. They demand meaning, the why behind every action. And yes, this will challenge you. December, children do not bend easily. They will test your beliefs, question your rules, and challenge your certainty. But they're not here to defy you, they're here to free you. In other lives, they were explorers, philosophers, wandering healers, teachers who carried wisdom across borders. And now, even as young children, that legacy remains. They carry a restlessness that only quiets when they are learning, growing, and experiencing something new. What may look like hyperactivity or distraction is actually their need for expansion, for movement, for discovery. Try to contain them with excessive rules or rigid authority, and they'll retreat, shut down, or resist. The key is not to hold them back, it's to guide their expansion. December, children don't walk behind you or ahead of you, they walk beside you. Their arrival often coincides with seasons when parents feel stuck, weighed down by old habits or simply worn out by routine. And then, like a spiritual breeze, they appear. They stir the air, they challenge certainties, they question family traditions, they invite you to new horizons, to study something new, to change your surroundings, to breathe more lightly, and to see life again through the lens of spirit. These children refuse to accept a life of mere survival. They crave meaning, and they come to remind you that you do too. In the karmic field, December souls often return to release old contracts of blind obedience, rigid devotion, or lives sacrificed to duty without joy. Perhaps in another time they were your disciple. Perhaps you tried to shield them with rules. Now they return, not seeking rigid protection, but partnership, freedom wrapped in guidance. And that is your challenge: to teach without imprisoning, to love without smothering, to protect without controlling. December children are fiercely allergic to hypocrisy. They can't stand lies, empty promises, or authority that fails to lead by example. What they demand is rare but sacred coherence. And in practicing that coherence, you transform. Slowly, you realize they didn't just come to grow under your care, they came to grow you. They push you from comfort into courage, from routine into risk, from resignation into dreams. With them, life stops being a loop of repetition and becomes a journey with purpose. They flourish in environments filled with emotional freedom, creativity, and spiritual connection. They love stories, rituals, other cultures, anything that expands the heart and mind. They are seekers, and because of that, they will call you to become a seeker too. If you are overly rational or reserved, they may feel like a hurricane, but that is their medicine. They are the soul that disrupts so that healing can come, the energy that unsettles everything so that something truer can be born. If your child was born in December, rejoice. You have welcomed a soul that closes one cycle and opens another, not only in your life, but in your entire lineage. They come with urgency, with intensity, with the weight of accumulated wisdom, and above all, with a burning desire to live in truth. You don't have to have all the answers. You only need to walk with them, open, courageous heart awake, because they don't want blind followers, they want awakened companions. And together, you will go further than you ever dreamed. And so perhaps you pressed play on this video out of curiosity. But if you are still here, it's because something deep inside you recognized truth in these words. Our children are not just biology. They are souls that cross time, memory, and karma to find us again. Every birth is not only a new beginning for them, it is a new chapter for us. Every birth month carries its own frequency, a hidden message, a quiet invitation to look deeper at the bond you share with your child and at the places within yourself still waiting for healing. Maybe now, as you reflect, moments that once felt confusing suddenly make sense. Their quirks, their challenges, their intensity. Perhaps you see them now not as random but as spiritual signals. They weren't sent to simply test you. They came to awaken you, to activate the growth you were destined for. This is not coincidence. They chose you. They chose you because, on some deep, timeless level, your soul was ready. And if you've ever doubted your ability to be the parent they need, know this: the doubt itself is part of the path. What matters most is remembering that your connection is older than your fear, older than uncertainty, older than this lifetime. Every child arrives with an invisible script, not a rigid destiny, but a soul plan. Within it are lessons to be learned, wounds to be healed, and relationships to be reconciled. Your child did not come just to be raised. They came to remind you of who you are, of your strength, your mission, your hidden light. Sometimes they will mirror your wounds back to you. Other times they will open the channel for your healing. But always, always they are a chance to love with greater awareness, a chance to live with deeper purpose, a chance to break the cycles that no longer serve you or them. If these words touched your heart, don't let the moment slip by. Like this video so it can reach other parents walking the same sacred path. Subscribe to the channel. This is where we go beyond the surface, always with depth, always with truth. And most importantly, share your story with me in the comments. Tell me which month your child was born in, and if you saw yourself or your family in this spiritual reflection. I read every comment with care because this channel isn't just mine, it's ours. A community of conscious parents learning to see their children not only with the eyes of the world, but with the eyes of the soul. And if you want to continue exploring the mysteries of parenthood, reincarnation, and the karmic threads between souls, there are more videos waiting for you. Click the suggested link at the end, or explore what's coming next, because each video is a key. Thank you for staying until the end. May your journey with your child be lighter, more awakened, and more filled with love from this day forward. Remember, their birth was not random, it was a reunion. You don't have to understand everything right now. You only need to keep listening with your heart. I'll see you in the next video.